Welcome to Make It. I'm Jason Levine. On today's show, we're featuring Kylee Peña. Now, as a workflow supervisor for many popular TV series, Kylee is going to give us an inside look at what it takes to work in the LA film industry. Well, Kylee, thank you so much for joining me today on Make It. It's so awesome to have you here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of your path and your career, because while you're a workflow supervisor today from by the way, one of my favorite shows, which is Jane the Virgin. I had to just get that out. Absolutely love that show, love the cast. But you're also a contributing writer for Creative Cow. You're the community director for BCPC West, which is the Blue Collar Post Collective, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But you've done everything from VFX and post to editing, and I kind of wanted to start with like where you started. And I remember you saying something, you were like a teenager using Premiere Pro, or Premiere, it wasn't even Pro.
No, it wasn't.
Back then. Yeah.
No. I was about 14 and my dad bought me a video camera for Christmas. And so I had been kind of really digging into the computer, and it was the internet was kind of becoming a thing. And I was in a group of theater kids, so we were really into the whole idea of blending this whole new internet communication tool with doing video. And it happened to be at a time when consumer video was accessible.
Right.
Or beginning to be accessible for
sure.
people. It was still kind of a nightmare.
Right, yes, especially in the tape days, yeah.
Yes, because I was definitely shooting on mini DV, but it was good because then I learned how to correct sync drift when my computer was too slow to keep up with the digitizing process.
So I'm already sensing a theme of like a lot of tech knowledge here, and again, this is kind of a thread, right, that led you to your current work and doing the sort of things you do. So Kylee, so I wanted to just ask, maybe go in depth a little bit more about, sort of being a workflow supervisor and what it actually means, not only on larger productions, but smaller ones, and of course having to kind of customize and tailor the workflow for that particular production. What's really entailed there, and how does it differ from something that has a larger budget like a Jane the Virgin or one of those types of shows to a film, to an indie film, to shooting a YouTube video, where again you still have this necessity for proper workflow and a proper sort of order of operations?
Workflow supervision is really important, and it happens on every scale, whether you understand that it's happening or not.
Right.
Because somebody has to know what path the media is taking to get from acquisition through post and then to finishing. So to have someone to facilitate not only deciding how it's going to go and working with you on that and making sure that those decisions are being implemented, but also just knowing that there is someone out there that is making sure it's all getting backed up and it's getting sent where it needs to go, is, I think, going to become even more important as we just keep adding Ks.
Could someone be a workflow supervisor and not be super technical? Seems like those two things really kind of go hand in hand.
I think it would be difficult to have this position as I know it without being technical, because it is highly technical, making decisions or helping people make decisions, and then also doing a lot of heavy technical troubleshooting, while also needing to understand something so well that you're able to explain it to all levels of people.
Right, exactly. I was curious now, we had talked about sort of getting into scripted TV and how things changed, particularly in the last couple of years with like HBO and Netflix. The workflows, have radically changed. And with every new format, whether we're going 720p, 1080p, up to 4K, these workflows need to be optimized. And this is where you came in, and I think this is where you had the opportunity to sort of leverage your leadership skills, right?
I had an opportunity to go to work at my current job, Bling, and at the time, I wanted to use it as a stepping stone to get into scripted TV because I really liked what was happening there, and I thought it was really fascinating, and I thought I wanted to be an editor of that stuff.
Right.
But then I got into Bling, and I realized, with the help of my mentor, that being an editor and being an assistant editor, it wasn't very satisfying to me to not be able to leverage all of my skills. And I found that I was able to do this post-production work and also have two sides to it, where I'm doing these very creative things with solving so many problems with workflows, but also being highly technical and leading a small group of people or helping guide people throughout the workflow to make good decisions. and everything like that. So it was hard for me to embrace that at first, because I was like, no, I wanted to be an editor from the time I was an actual child.
Right.
I don't want to give up on that, because I feel like I was giving up on like a dream. Like I want to win an Oscar, and I want to thank my mom.
Right.
I'm like, well, yeah, well, I can win a technical Oscar.
That's
now.
right. You can do that too. That's right. Although they don't air those usually.
Yeah, and they kind of make fun of them. That's okay.
Yeah, second fiddle.
The pictures will be good.
The pictures will be good.
Do it for the Instagram.
That's right. Only for the Instagram. So now, how did this lead to Blue Collar Post Collective and you doing kind of your work there on the West Coast?
Well, in my time at Bling, I realized that a lot of people didn't know those jobs existed. So as I grew in this field, I wanted people to know, like, there are many options, and they might actually appeal to you more than you thought.
Right.
Because it took some pulling teeth for me to realize that.
Right.
So that kind of goes into Blue Collar Post Collective, because what we are is a nonprofit organization that seeks to support emerging talent in post-production. And a lot of post-production is actually this really interesting intersection of creativity, of art and technology. And it's very underrepresented for women, for people of color, for young people. It's a very homogenous kind of part of the industry, but it's really cool. And its workflow in particular is becoming so much more important as there are so many different cameras and formats, and like there's new codecs that come out and the software doesn't support them yet, and there's so many issues that need to be solved in order for everyone to have their project be able to come to fruition without any issues, without any budget problems.
Right.
And someone needs to do that.
Right. Had you ever wanted to sort of go into like movies and films specifically? And I know you had talked, we had talked before about like, it's the schedules, like to, you know, a movie, it'll be 2 to 3 years to shoot, and then there's this little block of time for editing versus like a scripted TV series where it's much more rapid, but probably a lot of that speed and the adrenaline that you get from solving those problems on the go makes it potentially that much more exciting. I don't know. What do you think?
I had thought maybe I wanted to be in features, in movies, but I realized the schedules were just so drawn out. And I like creative constraint. I feel like I make the best decisions when I have some constraint.
Right.
And I like just making a decision and going with it and seeing what happens from there. Because it can evolve. It just evolves in a different way. So I tend to like, especially network TV schedules that are so condensed and so fast.
Right.
And I was really embracing that as someone newer to the industry and getting into scripted TV, because it goes so quickly that you learn so much in such a small amount of time.
Right.
And you can move forward a lot more quickly versus a film, for me personally.
How do you sort of summon the courage to make those decisions, especially if you're kind of newer in this space, so that people don't think, you don't know what you're talking about, or, you know, like how do you assert that power the way that you have? Because it seems like consistently you've been able to kind of guide your own path.
Asserting that power is a battle that's fought every day.
Okay. That's a very honest answer, yeah. I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, honestly. And for a young person, for a young woman, I do a lot of prep work before I go to a meeting. I feel like I have to know things inside and out. And then when I get into it, I'm just like, we're just going to do it. When I'm in the middle of a problem, one thing that always pops in my mind, especially recently, because I'm such a nerd, is a quote from Gene Kranz, the NASA director who was involved with the Apollo 13 disaster.
Yeah.
He said, work the problem. And I thought that was just written in the movie. I was like, oh, that's a pretty good line. But he actually said that.
He actually said it. Oh,
so sometimes I sit down from the computer and it's 2 a.m. and I'm trying to solve something to get, you know, because we have a deadline for, especially for dailies, you have to have stuff done every day at the same time. And I'll start to kind of go down this kind of anxiety spiral of what if you don't figure it out? What if you don't have anyone to call? What if? And I'm like, no, work the problem. If it's not the optimal solution, you'll find a solution until you have more time.
I imagine in workflow supervision especially, that's exactly what you're doing. You know, like we mentioned earlier, camera to finish to broadcast, or however, whatever those various things are, whatever facet of it that you're in that moment. Right, you just kind of make it work and work through the problem.
Yeah, it's just from age 14 till now, it's just like you're just constantly building on stuff. So right now, I was in Albuquerque recently working on a feature, and I was running into some issues, and as you always do, and trying to work them out. And I was thinking, I didn't even know this software 2 to 3 years ago. Some of the software didn't exist 2 years ago. Right. And now I'm here and I'm alone and I'm expected to fix it and I'm gonna fix it. And I'm like, my God, things move quickly.
Right. I love that though. I love that because I think that's what inspires so many is that, and I've been talking about this today a lot with people, this idea that you had to be really, you had to be an expert in one particular thing a couple of years ago, particularly in post. I think especially as people come up today wanting to edit, wanting to do a combo of these sort of things, it behooves them to know not just bits and pieces of the how, but more the high level overarching story of like how do you just put it together.
Yeah, and you have to have an appreciation for every experience you have kind of feeding into.
Good or bad.
Yes, especially the bad, unfortunately.
Love that. I love that shot so much. I think my own eye makeup has run like that before, after rendering for 19 hours.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So I had a question though. So like, how do you stay on top of it? Like, how do you stay on top of all the new formats, new codecs? Workflows keep changing, right? With each new K, there's a new sort of way of handling that media. How do you stay on top of it all?
I stay on top of all that stuff through various news sites, Creative Cow, Twitter is still really important, Facebook groups, and also just the resources that I have available through my workplace.
Right, and I imagine a lot of the people in BCPC too, I mean, these are up-and-comers who are probably on that cutting edge all the time. And
it's so important to know people like in real life that you can go to, and that's part of the reason why Blue Collar Post Collective meets once a month. So you have that community of friends and people that you can bounce things off of and share things with, because a lot of people in the group, at least in LA, work in reality, and then there's a group of them that work in scripted. And it's interesting for us to all talk to each other, to learn about each other's workflows and problems and...
Gossip.
No.
Okay. You said reality. That's the first thing I thought. I saw people throwing tables, Sorry. Yeah. Roses.
There's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I could imagine. So Kylee, I thought I'd ask you about your sort of top 5 most influential people in the industry. And I had you feed me some names, and I thought you could share who these people are with the audience and kind of tell them like your one line about their awesomeness and how they inspire you. So, number 1. Shonda Rhimes.
She's a badass showrunner, and she's running Hollywood.
Absolutely true. Number 2, Jill Soloway.
Director, speaks for non-binary people, and isn't afraid to speak her mind.
Right. Number 3, John Aramick.
He's a workflow specialist, and he's a really inspirational figure in the industry right now.
Number 4, someone very probably close to your heart, Katie Hinson.
Yes, co-founder of Blue Collar Post Collective. Climbed the ranks as an editor, and now she's running a post facility too. That's
awesome. And last but not least, Tim Wilson.
Yes, he's the editor-in-chief of Creative Cow and my biggest mentor, and I wouldn't be here if not for him.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, Kylee, it was so awesome to have you on the show today. We really appreciate hearing your stories, hearing everything, knowing kind of how you got to where you are and how you make it happen. And how you made it happen, and how you really embrace those leadership roles. And I think people are going to be really inspired by listening to you. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today. And for everyone watching, wanted to let you know that every week here on Make It, we'll be featuring amazing creatives in video and audio and production, really showcasing their stories, what they do, how they do it, and how they can inspire you to make something awesome. So we will see you again right here next time. Take care, everybody.